What's up guys, I'm Phoenix Master 1 and welcome back for some more Fire Emblem Heroes. So today I'm going to be taking a look at the Christmas banner that we have got for 2020, and this includes Winter Hilda, Bernedetta, Altina, and Sephiran. So I'm going to be giving you guys analysis on these units and also builds which you could run on these units. And at the end I'll also go over my opinion of which unit you should spark from this banner. So I hope you guys do enjoy this video, and with that said, let us begin. Winter Hilda is a Lance Armor unit with 184 BST, and when we saw her in the trailer I thought she would be a bit slow, so I'm just gonna be comparing the speculated stats with the actual stats to see how close I was, and I was pretty on point with her attack and defense, but just fell off when it came to resistance and speed. Definitely didn't expect her to be a fast armor unit, and that's a welcome surprise because this allows her to run stuff like Special Fighter and not get shut down by null follow-up like many armor units do, which is really great. And she's a 4-star focus unit, which means that it's easier to obtain her and also plus and merge her. So about average of 500 orbs is needed usually to plus and merge these kinds of 4-star focus units. So a lot of Hilda fans and people who really like her are going to be plus and merging her. And she can be a pretty nice unit at high investment. She comes with Candy Cane Plus, which is basically a conditional guard lance that gives you +5 attack and defense if you're within 2 spaces of an ally, and it also gives you the guard effect. So that kind of condition is extremely easy to meet, especially for an armor unit, so that's a solid weapon for her. And she also comes with Attack Defense Form 3, which is locked to 5-star, and Even Follow Up, which is going to be available at 4 stars. There are better fighter skills, but Even and Odd Follow-Up are pretty decent skills for armor units, especially fast armor units, because it can essentially give them a pseudo null follow-up, as they can stop the auto follow-up weapons of many units, and they can also break through stuff like impact skills and skills which are there to stop their follow-up attacks. So on faster armor units this can be really nice. It's not really as good as actual null follow-up obviously, but hey, it's pretty decent, even though it's kinda inconsistent and only works half the turns. She can be compared to some other free-to-play friendly armor units that we have got, Valentine Eliwood and Valbar, and she completely blows them out of the water, not only because she has got higher BST, more stats, and can score better in arena, but her stat spread is just better allocated, where she can have pretty decent amount of bulk while also hitting really hard and being pretty fast for an armor unit. Overall, Hilda is a pretty nice fast armor unit that we have got who could function in both phases because of her offenses and the fact that she can be pretty bulky. And she does have a super boon in attack and resistance. Attack super boon is definitely going to be pretty nice on lower investments, and even on higher investment it could be used for a one-shot build. Resistance super boon could help with the tanky builds, but a lot of times plus speed IV is going to be the most optimal one because she does have high speed, so it's really good to invest into that, especially for higher investments. It's also worth noting that because she's a 4-star focus unit, it's easier to plus and merge her, and at that point she could be a really good arena score stick. But keep in mind, running an armor unit in arena these days is basically having champagne without sham, because the amount of effective damage, power, speed, and poor one movement problems that they have to deal with is going to be pretty insane. So you have to run some kind of support unit who can increase their mobility like Armor March, Guidance, or Ground Orders, or just have teammates who can cover those specific really bad matchups like Legendary Chrom and many of the green armor units. So keep those things in mind if you're specifically investing into her for arena scoring. Let's talk about some of her builds. On budget build, Hilda could just run Speed Smoke and use something like Bonfire, and she'll be good to go with the Armor March Sacred Seal. Sadly, we don't have too many mixed phase options when it comes to slot A skills. She does come with Attack Defense Form, but if you want to change that, then Fury is definitely an option. Even Follow Up is pretty nice on low investment, but Desperation could also be run. And even on low investment, if you do get plus speed IV, then as you could see, she could reach pretty good amount of speed. You can also run her with Bold Fighter and a Brave Lance. The attack super boon can definitely be pretty helpful in that, and she can just be a quad armor. Because of her higher speed, she can definitely break through Wary Fighter and other skills which can stop the follow-up attacks of slower units, so that can definitely help. And if you want to invest into her with plus and merges, then here are the builds for that. You could just run Distant Counter on max investment, and that could work out because honestly her resistance is quite workable at max investment. And you could also run her with Slaying Lance, Distant Counter Special Fighter, along with Ether for constant healing. And if you want to invest even more into her, then you could invest with Vengeful Fighter, Distant Counter with a Res Super Boon. So if you want to utilize Res Super Boon, then Berkut's Lance or Barrier Lance is a way to go. to just pump up her resistance. And in my opinion, Guild Fork is basically the best weapon for Hilda because it can just neutralize the penalties to her attack and defense. So Guild Fork could be run with Special Fighter and Ignis with Distant Counter. Mystic Boost Secret Seal is a new one, so that could be utilized if you want to get some passive healing if you're not running a healing special. Flowing Lance, while it's a pretty good option, it's not the most ideal one for armor units because it requires them to be solo. So it could be useful because armors don't have access to lull attack defense, which Flowing Lance provides. So that could be run with Armored Stride and just stacking up solo skills. So if you want to have a solo Hilda, then that's definitely an option. But a lot of times stuff that requires you to stay near your allies is easier to work with. Now, because she's really fast, she could use Daring Fighter, which not a lot of armor units can do. And Ninja Yari is a really nice weapon for quad attacking, so she could run a Daring Fighter build. And again, Slaying Lance could be used with Bonfire so that she could trigger Bonfire when she's in the Daring Fighter range with Flashing Blade. And Daring Fighter can also allow you to pierce through effects which stop your follow-up attacks, so that can be pretty nice for a Gale Force build or just a Daring Fighter build. Unity skills are pretty good on her as well because they work in both phases, but keep in mind that Special Fighter and Candy Cane are a bit redundant because both of them have the guard effect, but still Special Fighter does provide you with a special acceleration in both phases, so that could work. And if you want to use her in Arena, then here are the Arena builds. As I said, running an armor unit in Arena is definitely going to be painful, but because Hilda does have pretty decent stat spread, it's going to be a bit better compared to the free-to-play old armor units that we have. So you could go with Guild Fork. As I said, it's a pretty nice weapon and you could use it with Special Fighter and Ether. Candy Cane can also be used with Even Follow-Up. And if you're not going to be running Special Fighter, then a lower cooldown special like Ruptured Sky can definitely help. But Special Fighter is definitely her best slot B skill because she's a fast armor. And then you could also go with the Attack Super Boon. Now, as I said, it could be useful for a one-shot build, and you could pair this up with Special Fighter, Harmonic Lance, and Ruptured Sky for really high damage output, with having help from Joint Drive Attack and Attack Speed Bond. So that can allow Hilda to just one-shot back with the extra special damage from Harmonic Lance, and Special Fighter can just allow you to retaliate back with Ruptured Skies. Hilda is not the most ideal unit to be used in Ether 8's offense because of being an armor unit, but still she could be used with these kinds of builds. Even Follow-Up in the light season could help her take on Bramimond on the even turns, so ideally you want to bait him out and bait out the team in general on turn 2. And you could also use her similarly to how Brave Hector is used with a Bonfire Special Fighter build that just capitalizes on one-shotting units. So Bramimond is not going to be doubling you if he just goes down to your Bonfire, so that could be run with Slaying Lance. And Mystic Boost could be helpful in getting some healing since you're not running a healing special. She could also be used in Astro Season. Thracier is definitely going to be a big annoyance, but she could prevent doubles from Thracier if you speed stack her enough. And Slick Fighter is especially really good on fast armor units because it allows you to have an auto follow-up, which allows you to just break through stuff like the impact skills. And it also neutralizes any penalties on your armor unit, which is a big boon because armor units have high stats, so that's definitely an option. Winter Bernadetta is a Green Mage Cavalier, and in the trailer I did have all of my stats correctly speculated for her, so she has got exactly the same offenses and just 1 point here and there for defense and resistance. So I guess Bernie was the most accurate speculation for this trailer. So Bernedetta is very fast with that 40 base speed, along with a speed super boon and a preferred weapon that does increase her speed by 3 and then gives her even more speed. So Bernedetta is an extremely fast unit. Her attack is definitely pretty decent, and even though her bulk is quite low, she can survive some hits because of the damage reduction from her weapon. So Reist is a 14 might tome that gives her +3 speed, and at start of combat, if she's at full HP, then she will inflict 1 damage to herself and allies within 2 spaces. And that is actually really good because it activates the secondary effect of this weapon. So if she's not at full HP, then she gets +6 attack and speed, and also reduces damage from foes first hit by 30%. And this damage reduction is in both phases, so this can definitely help her survive some hits because she's gonna be really fast. So not a lot of units can double her, and if she can reduce the damage from the first hit, then many times she can survive and safely get into the desperation range and do stuff like that. So this weapon is extremely good because it just allows her to activate her weapon for free at start of the combat, and this 1 damage is actually pretty amazing for activating many skills of your allies and even disabling skills of many enemies. And here's a quick chart to demonstrate that. So you can see which allies are going to be appreciating this 1 damage. A lot of times they will have secondary conditions which can activate their weapons, but someone like Brave Lysithea could definitely make for a really good teammate with her, and it could definitely help you in Arena Assault or in other game modes facing some of these threats like Ledgering Crom. So you just disable his preferred weapon by doing that 1 damage. Against Mage Erica, you just disable her entire weapon and you're really going to be weakening her damage output. Tibarn can also not double you because you just disable his weapon, so it could be really useful. And this can also hurt you against some threats, but there are only few of them. So Bernie can be a pretty nice unit just for the offensive power, but also for activating weapons of many units without really doing anything, and she actually has quite a bit of potential in Ether Raid's offense and defense because of this 1 damage. I'll go over that later on. Her base kit is absolutely stacked with all of the skills that a Mage Cavalier could ever want. Overall, Bernadetta is a pretty strong unit herself, and she can also allow for some creative plays with this 1 damage and also help her allies. As for her builds, her base kit is just perfect. You could just add attack, defense, solo and drawback and you'd be done. Desperation is also an option because the 30% damage reduction does allow her to survive many of the encounters, so that can help. And Heavy Blade Sacred Seal is an option, even though she just has 51 attack. If you just add up all of the skills that she gets the attack buff from, she can still do a pretty decent job at activating the Heavy Blade check even unmerged. In Ether Raid's offense, she can definitely help set up Gale Force or Vantage for your team, because keep in mind this 1 damage is always going to be happening whenever she's at full HP, so you could have a Gale Force unit or a Vantage unit have something like Ardent Sacrifice, and if they're a mythic like Regan especially, they're not going to be having that much HP, so that could help them fall into the range of many of the skills, so that can just help you, and it just allows for many creative plays. And now we do have extra slots because of these new mythics, so that just allows for the flexibility. Not the best support unit obviously, but still she does allow for some pretty cool plays, and she can just hop in with the Wings of Mercy to finish off a threat. She could also be used in Ether Raid's defense as a threat because she does have the damage reduction, can hit pretty decently hard. So she could be used, but keep in mind all of these mythics like Altina, Regan, and Plumeria are red color, so they will be having the weapon triangle advantage. And if you want to invest more into her, then you could definitely go with ARD defense res. With the damage reduction and by stacking up her speed, she can be a really annoying unit. Now obviously she's no Summer Mia, she doesn't really have that high of a damage reduction, but 30% is still something, so that could help you many times. And she could also use that to safely apply panic. As I said, she's no Summer Mia. Usually you will see Summer Mia with this build in higher tiers of Ether Raids, so Bernie could pretty much imitate something like that. In Ether Raid's defense, she can also help trigger the effects of someone like Brave Lysithea, who's usually not preferred in Ether Raid's defense, and the original version is a bit better because of her higher damage output and the fact that you don't have to activate her weapon by the damage. So she could be used there, but keep in mind you will have to keep those units away from the healing tower so that again they don't regain the HP. This 1 damage can also help you set up forced healing traps and also rescue traps. But with rescue traps, you gotta make sure that the unit who's getting rescued is not being baited by the enemy, because if they're getting baited, then they're just gonna be attacking without getting rescued, so that could ruin your plan. But as I said, she could definitely allow for some pretty cool plays because of this 1 damage. Winter Altina is a sword infantry unit, so Sanaki has weighed her down enough that she's no longer a flying unit, and being an infantry unit opens you up to having stuff like Null Counter Disrupt, for example, which she comes with, and she also has just more stats than normal version of Altina, and in my opinion she is definitely better than the original Altina because of having higher attack, higher defense, higher resistance, and also having access to these infantry only skills, and also the fact that she can be blessed. The normal version of Altina is locked to the Astra season. She cannot get more stats with any other unit, but this Altina can be blessed and she can be used in Light Season or Astra season, and even can be used in Arena. So that just opens more options for Altina. So this version of Altina also has Dragnel Alondite, which is a dual phase brave weapon with distant counter built into it, and Twin Blades does scale off based off her resistance, and it also can ignore the damage reduction skills, which are really prominent in metagame right now. So it's a really good special, and she has got a very strong weapon. And she also has a solid base kit with attack res unity, which is basically gonna be rewarding you if you get debuffed. And attack and resistance are by far two of her most important stats, because with attack she can vantage sweep, and the resistance does help her scale the damage of her special. So it's a very good slotted skill for her, honestly, and the perfect one with all of these debuffs going around. And Null Counter Disrupt can just allow her to destroy these fire sweep weapon users, these dazzling staff units, and also wind sweep units, which are getting common with units like Duo Byleth and normal version of Selena. So that's a very good skill. Attack Res Oath is probably not the perfect skill here. Defense Smoke does help you a bit better in vantage sweeping, but still pretty nice for self-buffing. This is a pretty big misconception, but her Harmonized skill only gives vantage to herself. Unlike many of the Harmonized skills, this is not going to be giving another effect to her allies. It just gives them attack and speed, and that's it. They are not going to be getting vantage. Only Altina will get vantage, and this vantage does not have any HP condition. So even if she's at full HP, she will attack first if she has got the vantage from this Harmonized skill. And that's a really big thing, because this Altina can be blessed. She can have more HP, she can have more stats, and she just comes out of the box to absolutely trivialize many of the Aether Raid's defense teams that may not have duo hindrance or may not have very bulky blue units. And let's be honest, even if you have a hardy bearing unit, a lot of times they're not going to be able to take out Altina from full health, because she can get extra HP and extra stats because of being blessed. So Altina, just outside of the box, is such a good unit for Aether Raids. If you're struggling with Aether Raids offense, then you just pick one up, and she can just trivialize so many maps, it's not even funny. The only counter to her are extremely bulky blue units which she cannot take out. But all of the other annoying units, she can just vantage sweep through them like it's nothing. But keep in mind, Duo Hindrance is the biggest counter to her, because if Duo Hindrance is there, you cannot use your Harmonized skill, and in higher tiers of Aether Raids, that is definitely going to be a thing. So just keep her as a counter pick option against the teams which might not have Duo Hindrance, and she can put in just so much work even at unmerged. So honestly, in my opinion, Altina is a very strong unit, and the strongest unit out of this banner, and she is easily better than the original version of Altina. So there's not much you have to change for her builds. You could just run Mirror Stance, and that's a pretty good skill. And if you're going to be using her in in-game content for abyssal maps and stuff like that, then you can only get Vantage once per turn, so you will have to let go of Null Counter Disrupt for Vantage, the good old Vantage and slot base, so that could work out. And she could be used in the light season, as I said, and she could be supported by Brave Lucina so that she could always trigger Twin Blades on her second hit, unless you're facing someone like Eliwood or something like that, who has Special Fighter in his weapon. But tech to that is just not having Vantage equipped, so Eliwood just attacks you and then you can trigger your special anyways on your second hit. So that's definitely an option for a low invested Altina, and Brave Lucina is easily the best support option you could run with her, and she can just destroy many of the light teams, just trivialize them honestly. And she could also be used with Attack Super Boon, that's very helpful. In Astro Season, she could particularly be very strong because both original version of Altina and Regan give you extra attack, which is really good for Vantage sweeping, and that allows you to have better usage of Heavy Blade. And Defense Smoke in slots is definitely the preferred skill here. Pulse Smoke could also be run on higher investment, but honestly it's not going to be needed many times if you're just going to be using her as a counter pick. The final unit we have on this banner is Winter Sephiran. So he's the second staff armor unit that we have got, and he completely outclasses Winter Erica with his higher BST and higher stats. Both of them are pretty similar slow armor units, but Sephiran does have more stats, so he's definitely the better one. He also comes with better base kit in general. These are the stats which I was speculating when the trailer came out, so I was pretty right about his extremely high attack stat and quite on point with his resistance as well, but he's not really as min-maxed as I thought he would be, so he has got more speed at the cost of having lower defense. So Tannin Baton Plus has got Drive Defense, Drive Resistance, and Drive Guard built into it. Drive Guard is something new, which we didn't have before, and that can be so good for supporting our allies, and that can really be amazing in Arena Assault because all of these units have special accelerating skills. So Drive Guard just helps protect the allies within two spaces and doesn't really take any kind of like opportunity cost honestly. He also has Attack Res Push 4, which is really good with his high resistance, and Odd Recovery as a new skill. So Odd Recovery is basically going to be neutralizing any kind of penalty on allies within 2 spaces and restores 20 HP to them. So this just frees up the action of Sephiran because he doesn't have to manually heal up when he can just restore 20 HP. So even though this is only going to be active for half the turns, it's still a pretty nice support slotsy skill for healers. It is of course a healer locked skill, so not any unit can inherit this. It's definitely worth noting that if you're thinking of using this in Aether 8's offense or just for using this in your player phase, then keep in mind that Odd Recovery will get rid of the penalties at start of your turn, but when the enemy's turn starts, they're still going to be inflicting the debuffs on your unit, and then your unit is going to be debuffed. So just keep in mind that the debuffs are going to be applied again when the enemy's turn starts. And that's why it has more application in Aether 8's defense, where you could run this on your healers. This is especially really good for teams which have high pressure on turn 1, so this can allow Milla and other isolation like Bridal Fiarm to not be an issue for your dancers on turn 1. So definitely an option, but it's available on a 5-star locked unit. As for Sephiran's stats, he does have the highest attack out of any healer at base 42. That is just so high, he can hit extremely hard, and he also has sky high resistance, so he's not really going to be taking much damage from mages. And if you run Mystic Boost Sacred Seal, then he can even take care of dragons pretty easily. His speed is extremely low, so he's getting doubled by pretty much everyone. His defense is quite workable at higher investment if you want to run something like Close Foil or Close Counter. Overall, Sephiran is a pretty nice support unit, even at unmerged, because of the support skills that he comes with on his base kit, and as a unit himself, he can definitely hit pretty hard with that tier 4 push skill and with his high attack stat. For his builds, you could definitely go with a budget build by running armored boots. This definitely allows you to have better mobility, and you could either go with the Wrathful Refine or the Dazzling Refine. Wrathful Refine does work out because you're not really going to be getting doubled with Weary Fighter, so you could definitely hit harder with your push skill. And you could run the Dazzling effect as well if you don't really want to take any kind of counter attack, but keep in mind he's not going to be doing as much damage without the Wrathful Staff in slot B. Wings of Mercy could also be used for budget, and he's going to be a really good unit to be used in Arena Assault just as a support. If you want to invest a bit more into him, then he can support even further by running Fortress Defense Res both in slot A and Sacred Seal, and run a Sabotage skill in slot B, so this can just debuff the enemies with his high resistance, and he's going to be supporting with his weapon in slot C. Because of his extremely high attack stat for a healer, he can definitely function as a Pain Vantage Sweeper in something like Light Season, where there's no threat of Duma destroying your Bolt Tower. So the aim is to basically get rid of the enemy's healing tower, and after your Bolt Tower goes off, you can do even more passive damage with Pain, and he can definitely fall into the range of Vantage quite easily because of his high bulk. And if you want to make him even more solid, then Duo Micaiah could be used with that Dominance effect, which will give him the true damage, so it allows him to have even better Vantage sweeping. At extremely high investment, at +10 merge, he can definitely run a Close Foil build. Crafty Fighter in the slot B is definitely the best skill for him because it allows him to have the guard effect, which is so useful when he's going to be getting doubled so much. He could be used as an Absorb tank, especially because he has got higher attack. Absorb is usually not a very good option because of its slow might, but on Sephiran it can work out because of his extremely high attack stat for a healer. But if you want to go with something like Palm Staff, then that's also an option, and Mystic Boost can definitely be used to get rid of the adaptive damage of the dragons, and because of his high resistance, dragons are not really going to be doing that much damage. Sadly, healers don't have access to offensive specials, so Miracle is basically the best option you could go for. Seasonal banners don't usually have Spark mechanic, but this banner does have it. So after every 40 summons, up to 3 times you can spark units, and it's kind of similar to what we had in Choose Your Legends basically. So this can allow you to get multiple focus units guaranteed if you at least have that many orbs, and you can definitely get Hilda easily because she's a 4-star focus unit. So whenever a banner has sparking, it's definitely much better because you could at least get the guaranteed unit you were looking for. And if you're gonna be doing 40 summons, then in my opinion the best sparking option here is gonna be Winter Altina. And after that, Bernedetta is gonna be the next best sparking option. And after that, probably Winter Sephiran. But if you're building up a +10 Hilda, then basically just snipe for the blue stones, and you could spark for a Hilda as well to lower the orb cost and just get an extra merge on your spark. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please be sure to share this video with your friends who are thinking of summoning on this banner or thinking of building up any of these units. And I want to thank all of my YouTube members for their constant support, and if you enjoyed, then please be sure to leave a like and a comment. Helps me tremendously, and be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because expecting YouTube sub boxes to work is like expecting Bernie to not stay in her room. So with that said, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.